What's good, folks? We're here with another episode of Red Dirt Dialogues. Today I'm here with Iggy Normus, Mr. JR Normus. How's it going?
I'm good, man. I'm looking forward to being on. This is cool. I feel blessed to be on one of your first 10 podcasts. I really like the name of the show, Red Dirt Dialogue. I don't know. We've been hosting the weekly Rumble together.
Yeah,
Last I don't know how many 8 weeks or something like that. But
yeah.
it's good to be here, man. I like your backdrop.
I
Very topical.
appreciate it.
I'm assuming that's what we're gonna be talking about a little bit.
Yeah,
So I'm
yeah,
happy to
yeah.
be here, man.
I wanted to set the mood. I want to go ahead and get it out of the way. I appreciate you. You were one of the first people to help me, break out of my shell into the whole podcast and YouTube,
Cool.
Rumble, whatever thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, it started. I'll go ahead and say it started with the Twitter thing. When I was on Twitter one day and you tweeted me, you were like, you were looking at my timeline on your show, and
Yeah.
so I was like, oh well, he's looking at my time. Let me see what he got going on,
Yeah.
and then I
I don't
followed.
remember what that was over. I don't remember what it because I've gone through your posts several times over the years, and I don't remember what exactly it was either like white people activities or some. I don't remember what it was, but yeah, you've been a mainstay on my show for a while.
Yeah, it was random. Like that stuff you looked at that day. I was like, man, he got me on. He's looking on one of my worst days. I was like,
Yeah.
sometimes you feel like you have a slump of posts. You're like, this ain't as funny as I once started. You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely. What I don't really know what that is. It's like posting and social media. To me, it thrives off of inspiration, and
Hmm.
it's if you try to make up all original thoughts, it's very difficult. But you're looking at other
Yeah,
people's posts, you're replying to them. But yeah, sometimes the flow just isn't there. I've been
yeah,
feeling like that today and yesterday, so I can relate.
same. Well, hey, since I already got the background up, we already brought it up. Well, no, no, no. Go ahead and give the audience a little introduction on who you are,
Cool.
maybe
Yeah.
early
Well,
life stuff.
yeah, early life, not Jewish. If you go to, I do not have a Wikipedia. So yeah, my real name's Steven, and I go by Iggy Normus online. I was formerly known as Steven Ignoramus, and that brand just kind of went the way of the dodo for reasons we might get into or whatever. But yeah, I'm a musician, music teacher, on the street journalist. I was at January 6th. Sure, we're going to talk about that. I've had 3 or 4 viral moments over the years. Podcaster, YouTube channels called Call Me Ignorant. So if you guys want to sub on YouTube over there, but I've been streaming most day, 5 or 6 days a week since the beginning of 2019. And I've gone through, well, first and foremost, I'm a Christian.
Yeah,
I know you are too. So it's funny how, it's I don't want to say that I take it for granted, but it's such a big part of my life, or that I think about it so much that I'm just, yeah, I do these other things, but my main identity is definitely in Christ. And so yeah, Christian, American, white dude. People call me a racist.
yeah.
I'm one of those people, like
Hey, you just
unironically.
gotta embrace it. That's what I do.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So yeah, I mean, I've just been an artist for a long time now. I've been in the commentary sphere for a while, so that's a good start. I mean, I can put my links below, show
Yeah,
description, but a really easy guy to find out there.
yeah. Once I figure out the whole description game, I'm gonna put all that stuff. I'm
Yep,
that's one of the things I'm working on
yep,
as a new creator. I don't want to call
yep,
myself an influencer. I think that's the gayest term ever.
yeah.
But I wanted to ask. I want because I didn't even actually plan on asking you. There's something on my back that's bothering me. But anyway, I want
If you got a scratch,
but I didn't intend to ask you this. Is there some kind of musician to podcast the pipeline? Because it's like 5 to 10. I want to say white guys, but I know a couple guys who used to rap too.
yeah.
That they used to be musicians and now they're podcasters. Is there a pipeline?
I don't know. Actually, that's interesting. I'd be interested to know who they are, but I mean, some people are musicians and that's
Mhm.
what they do, and they have not good, pretty bad social skills, and they don't have a lot of charisma or whatever. I have always kind of I call myself just more of an artist now, because I've found that across multiple mediums, I just like creating and expressing myself.
Yeah,
Music was the one that I found my niche in, I guess, in my late teens and early 20s. I used to be like an actor in middle school. I was Hamlet in some plays and stuff like that. And I've always just been whatever medium. I think if you gave me some practice and with a pad and paper, I would be decent at that too with enough practice. But I just like expressing myself. I mean, there's this Bible verse that really triggers me sometimes where it's like a fool is only into expressing his own opinions, and that's what I do hours and hours every day. But it also says that a fool takes no delight in learning in that same verse, and that's not true about me. I take a lot of delight in understanding and learning things. But who are the people that who are the other musician? Yeah, who you said some white guys?
Yeah, I know one that I can think off the back. It's just I remember hearing it, but one off the bat, it's my boy from Conspiracy Pill. I know his name, PJ.
Oh yeah,
PJ from Conspiracy Pill. I know he was in a band. And it was like 3 other guys that I listened to, but I'm trying to think who it was. They do music, but it's crazy because the podcasts aren't about music at all. That'll just get thrown out there. And I'm like, darn, you were in a band? Like, what was up?
Well, what's interesting about that is that I've been pro or semi-pro since I was 18, and only for about the first 4 or 5 years of being a serious musician did I even enjoy talking about music. I like talking about music for about 5 years. Now I don't really enjoy talking about it that much. I mean, it might be because of, off air, we were talking about what you do for a living, and it's like, imagine someone who doesn't know what you do that well, but thinks they do know what you do, come in and try to like make a podcast or have a discussion about your job. And you're just like, dude, that's not it. I find that so much of this world is just, or what people talk about are it's dependent on cliches, and people just say stuff rather than thinking about the words they're saying. I mean, to a certain extent that we all do, right? You can't write an essay every time you speak, so we have to condense things. But with music, I'm so tuned into what it is and scientifically what it is and what makes the whole thing tick, because I play like 7 or 8 instruments, and I don't think I could ever do a music podcast. It's also too small of a world. Like, it's kind of weird. I've studied music for many years only to realize that it really doesn't matter all that much. I love it. I'll always be into it, but music doesn't matter, especially if it's music that doesn't glorify God or is just degenerate. The music industrial complex is just of Satan. So I could never do a niche pod like that. I like talking about whatever I want anytime. So politics, culture, but that's interesting. I mean, I like, some people just do a basketball podcast or a anime podcast. And I'm just like, dude, how do you fill up that much time with those things? But yeah, I mean, I like doing this much more at this point, especially because the music game is incredibly liberal. So I've been blacklisted from a bunch of clubs. Not many people work with me, so it kind of worked itself out.
Yeah. So do you even like in your personal time? Do you still play your personal time, or
you
even jam out on your jam? I don't think I've ever seen you jam out on your pod. Do you ever jam out on your pod?
It's been a long time. I used to do 2 or 3 music streams every week, and then the more I got into this, I just started talking more, and I'll play music. I have a fake radio show. I don't know if you've heard of this before. Whenever we cool things down at the end of the stream, the content is over, and I'll just play music from Sirius XM, and I call it WIGR the Wigger. And, so that's my like fake DJ. But yeah, I got some shows coming up. I'm running a right-wing music festival in Nashville in July. Called Patriot Jam, and I'm performing at it. So I was working on some music charts today, and I've got a couple shows coming up in the summer. But yeah, I still play it for fun. I play hymns just out of a hymnal or whatever. So, but it's mostly just work to me at this point. I'm not saying that I don't enjoy it. In fact, it's the best job I can ever imagine, but it is just part of my workflow. It's not, I'm not like, when I want to do something fun, I'll play basketball or lift weights or read a book or listen to a podcast, but music has just been my job for my whole adult life. So it kind of sucks because you can't unsee that. Like you can't, it's very hard to reverse course on that. Yeah. I've been taking it seriously for a long time. So sometimes I wish I had the kid, the child back in me, but it got me really skilled at this craft, and learning music allows you to see patterns in other things. So it's helped my noticing, as is that the word?
Yeah.
So yeah.
And I think that makes you I want to say it makes you the first musician we've had on show, but you're the third actor. I don't know how everybody seems to have acted in something,
Yeah.
except I would say except for me, but they did make me write a play in 8th grade against my will.
Right? What made you write one?
I had to write it. Like I had to
Okay.
write it and direct it, and it was about a killer janitor. I don't know how they let me get away with a slasher in middle school, but yeah, I wrote a slasher play,
Wow.
and I acted. I was the janitor. I got to kill some people.
Wow. Very interesting. Very interesting.
If I had my yearbook, there's a
Yeah.
picture of me in the play.
Are
Like I
you like
used
dressed up? You're like
no,
dressed up
was
as
I
the
dressed
killer.
up? I can't remember. I just remember I had a broom in my hand because that's how I kill people with the broom. But not don't even reminded me of stuff. I was in chorus. I did man, I can't even sing a lick. My mom forced me to be in chorus. I was in chorus
Really?
about
I
yeah,
bet you can sing. I,
I can sing some songs, like I can't sing I can't sing like every song, but there are a few songs where I can hit those notes, but it's only a few select songs. I
okay.
gotta wait till I get older because it's something about old black people. They just learn how to sing, especially gospel songs. Like my neighbors back when I was young, they'd go outside and start drinking beers and sing start singing gospel songs, and it sounded
Mm.
good.
Yeah, I mean, I think that everyone can sing. Some people dispute that. You know, when I say everyone can, and this is not to say that everyone should sing, but
Yeah.
I do think that everyone can sing. I can show someone with a brief 5-minute singing class, but yeah, I mean, especially black people though. I mean, I don't know. It was interesting. Last night we were on the Weekly Rumble, and Jeremy it's not every day that someone surprises me with an opinion that I haven't heard before, but he was talking last night about how some races, in his opinion, they've retained the image and likeness of God in some ways. Some traits reflect the image and likeness of God, and some traits don't. It's like the image and likeness of Satan. He didn't say that, but I guess what would the opposite of God be? And it's I don't know. I tend to kind of agree with that, and it's just black people just have that thing. They're just very musical. There's a South Park episode about where Chef can just play the bass.
Oh, yeah,
Like he just picks up the bass, and he's like never played before in his life. But I don't know what that is. But you're right. When you get like an older black dude, they just feel it and they can sing, and it's awesome, man.
And that was wild because like I mentioned on there that I've been going for walks, and the walking it helps me think. And I had a similar thought, just off by myself. I was like, black people, when it comes to the music, because I was thinking, I was like, we're all gonna be in heaven doing our like we're all gonna add something to the course of heaven. And I was like, I think we should do more focusing on that on earth because I was like, when it comes I'm speaking from experience. When it comes to white people, they're usually more focused on the words of the song. So it's like you mix the words of the song with
Yep.
the soul is that you get from black people singing, and then like I mentioned the Puerto Ricans, and like so then you add on the dance of like the Hispanics. And I don't know much about Asians, but I'm pretty sure they got something they turn into they turn everything into kung fu. So they got some special, you know what I mean? So I'm pretty sure they got something they can add to the whole pot. And I was like, damn. So when I was hearing him say that, I was like, man, me and him are on a similar wavelength around the same time, and I just thought that was pretty dope.
Yeah, I've definitely found that white people, in my experience, white people care too much about the lyrics. It's actually interesting because we're talking about Jeremy might be wrong, our co-host so much, but me and him we've had this debate for like 4 years because I'm a music guy. I'm heavily influenced by black culture. I guess he is too, but he's a words guy. I'm a music guy, but also I'm a pretty accomplished lyricist. I mean, I've been rapping my whole life. I love lyrics. I just have made the argument that great lyrics over bad music is bad music, but bad lyrics over good music is good music. So one of them is more important when we're talking about the sport of music. And if it's poetry, sure, it's only words, but it's music. It has to have a melody and a harmony and a good rhythm. And I mean, my favorite music I mean, 70s funk, stuff like that. Sometimes they're talking about nothing. Sometimes
Mhm.
they're talking, the song is about like the most asinine behavior, or it's just about nothing. But it's
Yeah,
my favorite music. So, yeah.
that's why I don't like country as much. I like country when it's telling a story, but when it's
Hmm.
just talking about drinking a beer, it's
Hmm.
like drinking a beer, back roads. Like I
Yeah.
can't vibe with it because now I'm not getting nothing. Because I don't really like the. I don't know. It's just the guitar. What it doesn't ring with my soul. But or love. I love a love song. I love a good country love song.
Yeah.
But
See, I'm getting into. I mean, I live in Eastern Tennessee. I'm not there right now, but when I moved to Eastern Tennessee, well, I guess I moved from DC, and I guess maybe we'll talk about J6 because that
yeah,
the
yeah, yeah,
J6 DC thing is
yeah.
part of that story. But I
Mhm,
was in DC for 10 years, and I'm a working hired musician. I mean, I write my own
mhm,
stuff and I play in bands, but also I get hired out on whatever instrument. And in DC, I mean, it's Chocolate City. I was getting hired for jazz gigs, R&B, funk, rock, stuff like that. So I was deep in that culture and that repertoire for 10 years. And then I moved to Eastern Tennessee, and there's no country bands in DC, not that I've
mhm.
seen. Maybe there's some blues or whatever, but when I moved to Tennessee, people are like, "Oh, do you play? What do you play?" And I'm like, "I play whatever." And they're like, "Okay, I need you to learn all these songs." They sent me 40 songs, and I'm like, "I have not heard one of these songs. Certainly haven't played them." So I've been getting a crash course in country over the past 3 years, and it's starting to get pretty good to me, man. Some country is really good. A lot of this, like a cold beer,
Yeah,
red pickup, that
yeah.
type of thing's kind of gay, but some of it is. It's the thing that's interesting, and this is a take that not many people, I haven't seen this from too many people, that hip hop and country are very, very similar.
Yep.
Extremely similar. Like it's about punchlines.
Mhm.
It's in some ways it's relatively to extremely materialist.
Yeah, yeah.
It's simp music. Both of
Yeah, a lot
those
of
genres are even like
yeah.
when you glorify, even when you're bad mouthing women, if you're talking about them that much, you
You're
are a
still
simp.
trying to get it. Yeah, you're still trying
Yeah,
to get the girl, no matter how much money and material stuff you brag about. It's for the love of women every time.
exactly. Exactly. So I'm looking at these country songs and whatever. And I'm like, this is a hip hop song. It's got a punchline, it's tongue in cheek, it's over exaggerated, and it's also they're playing a persona. And
Yeah.
I don't know, maybe I
And bro,
use some. Yeah, what are these rappers like when they're at home alone? Are they dressed like that? I highly doubt that they're dressed like that.
nah, it's probably
So yeah,
and it's funny that you say that because Bryson has been on the timeline for weeks trying to tell people the same thing, and they just don't get it because they see something as worse. But I think he's basically like, nah, y'all just seeing differently, but it ain't like it's worse. Some people just do it more out in the open. Some people hide it. But
yeah,
if you like you said, if you go down to material, it's alcoholism,
yeah,
fornication,
yeah,
and materialism. Whether
yeah,
this guy likes change, you like lifted trucks, he likes goddamn Cadillacs with 20-inch rims. It's
yeah,
like,
yeah.
and both y'all like
It's
big
so
houses,
true.
guns. You
Yeah.
got the trailer park,
True,
you
the
got the
guns,
apartments.
dude. I didn't even think about that. Yeah, they're both gun culture. I mean, they're
Yeah.
both two sides of gun culture, but yeah, that's so true, man.
Man, this is the third time I mentioned Thomas Sowell said this in his book, and
Yeah.
like,
You
but
talking about black rednecks, white liberals?
yeah, like
Oh
man,
yeah,
go.
that's an awesome book.
It's
Yeah.
crazy. People, but I hate that the so-called black community kind of like wrote him off. I'm like, hey man, it's a lot of relevant and helpful stuff in there if you just open it up.
Absolutely.
I know I'm
Yeah.
gonna have my kids read
Yeah.
it.
Do you so you don't
I
like
haven't
the
even
phrase
finished
black
it,
community?
huh?
You don't
Say it
like the
again.
phrase black community?
Oh, because I don't even think it should be. I don't like the term black. I was
Mm.
because what it's the name we were given. So I say black just because that's what people understand. And then people, I hate how the right does it like when I feel like when black people want to speak on the accomplishments, it's oh why does it have to be black? But then when they want to speak on the negative stuff, it's oh it's black when it's our negative stuff.
Yeah.
And like I told people before, I was like I'd be happy with calling it American, but
Hmm.
sometimes y'all separate it as black culture when it should just be American culture. I was like, but then you complain, but it's like, are you if we're gonna call American culture, we have to get rid of all the crime statistics. Because it gotta just be American statistics.
Yeah.
American, like it ain't no black white churches, American church, like everything. You'd have to get rid of all that stuff and just go, we're American this. Because
Yeah.
even if you go outside of the country, they're not gonna call me black. They don't like, well, they will, but like when they ask me where I'm from, if I tell them I'm black, they can be like, you're American, like,
Yeah.
because they see it differently. And I
Yeah,
because even
that's interesting. I mean, so let me. I mean, I know you're like interviewing me or whatever, but this is
yeah,
like my
that's it.
my wheelhouse. I love talking about this
Yeah,
stuff. But like the you do. I mean, of course, we're American,
yeah,
but they are distinct cultures, though, right? I mean, if you look at what like the lion's share of white people are just kind of like. I mean, they look different and they have a distinct culture, and so do blacks.
mhm,
So do you, I mean, I don't know, I guess I'm just making a statement rather than a question, but like I feel like you have to separate them because they're so different.
well, if you
If
want
you
to
were to
address it as
call
a
them,
subculture, but there's, I
yeah,
believe, because the influence is American, like it's because black African blacks don't act. They do now, but that's because of the influence of the music. But Africans don't all act the same way as Black Americans. Like their
yeah,
cultures, when it comes to stuff like marriage and even some of the music is
yeah,
different.
demon worship, yeah.
But see then, but see even then, like we split it like that. Like blacks in Georgia don't act like blacks in Florida, and blacks in Florida don't
Yeah,
act like blacks in New Orleans or New York. Or California.
right.
But I think that's a problem because America's so freaking big. It's out of like three European countries.
Yeah, it's hard to figure all this out. Yeah, it
Yeah.
takes. That's why I mean, I have obviously my opinions and stuff like that, but I've just found over the past couple of years that it's way more about, I don't know, like conversational grace and just kind of,
Hmm.
I
Yeah.
don't, this is like a black term, but like laying in the cut and just
Yeah.
chilling.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
it's like, I think that so many people, they base their friends and their relationships on ideology rather than just
Hmm.
getting along. I mean, you know, it's the foundation for a good relationship or a good discussion is getting along. It's not agreeing on everything. I guess this is a little played out to even say, but it is true that it's like chemistry and flow is so
Hmm.
much more important than, I mean, I don't even agree with myself on everything on any
Yeah.
given day because I'm always thinking, so how much more so another person? But I think the race thing is complicated,
Yeah.
and it's fascinating. I just wish we were able to talk about it more. I mean, I was kind of
Yeah.
driven to that. I've always been kind of racist in that I make fun of
Yeah.
different
Yeah.
races.
Same.
That's my favorite kind of humor. I was
Hmm.
raised on black comedians that they talked about
Yeah.
it all the time, and it
Yeah.
was cool. I mean, especially being raised in the Detroit area, and it was just kind of cool to talk about um, growing up. And then at a certain point, around like Obama or a couple years before, I remember, this is funny. I had a buddy, it was one of my best friends growing up. I'm just remembering this now. He's a black dude named Devin, and he had his cousin's house. We'd always go over there, and they would always have like 8 dudes over there, anywhere from
Yeah.
like age 11 to age like 19.
Hmm.
Me and him were talking about South Park, and there's this episode of South Park where Cartman is a superhero called the Coon,
I've
and
seen it, but I haven't seen the episode.
yeah, and I remember bringing it up, right? And it was like literally out of a movie. It was around like 10 other black dudes. I was the only white dude, maybe another friend of mine. And it was like the record scratch from the movie. It was like, huh? And this guy goes, the Coon. I was like, yeah, it's like a funny joke. I like left like 20 minutes later. It was so, I was like, yeah, like a raccoon. I didn't realize,
Yeah.
like, I was
Yeah.
like, oh yeah, but it's got sensitive, around the time we were like 16. Now, I don't know if that's because of the age we were or the year that we were in, probably a little bit of both. But once you start getting aware of this stuff, this racial consciousness or animosity sets in. It's really sad, but I want to kind of get that back where we can talk about stuff again.
Yeah, and I've been trying to understand it lately. I've been trying to. I'm like, how does race? Like, I'm trying to put everything in a biblical perspective,
Mm-hmm.
and then I'm looking the way they're doing the Bible. Your race wasn't your skin color; it was your father. You either named by your father's name or where you were from. That's why I said the American thing, or I could go by my father's name. It wouldn't even matter. But
Mm.
that's why it's. I think America's doing it wrong.
Well, I mean, the thing is that what you just said about race is not entirely true about biblical times.
Okay.
Like, they certainly weren't talking about it like there are these 3 or 4 big races. I mean,
Yeah, yeah,
a guy I've had on the show a couple times, Corey Mahler, calls
yeah.
these the great races. But
Mhm.
it also, there are smaller ethnic groups that are still races. They're
Yeah,
small. They're subsets of the so-called great races, and it
yeah,
wasn't about where you're from. I mean, if you just look at the genealogies and stuff,
yeah,
the early nations were often named after the patriarch of that nation, and that it
yeah.
was a bloodline. It wasn't, and
Well,
that
see, yeah, yeah,
bloodline just happened to settle in a certain locality, but
yeah.
they weren't named after the locality. The locality was named after the
Named after the
bloodline.
people. Yeah, yeah. I'm
Yeah,
like,
so
so
it's always been about blood, man. I mean, always.
yeah,
It is now. We just ignore it, but it is true that these broad, big. They wouldn't have said like, Asian, white, black, brown, and whatever, or and red or whatever. But
yeah,
like an Israelite, that is a
yeah.
bloodline race. A
Hmm.
Midianite, a Philistine. These are bloodline
Yeah,
races, and they always have been. So I
yeah.
definitely agree that America's doing it wrong, but I don't agree that it's just your dad, and because
Well,
our blood,
I meant to say the lineage of fatherhood is lineage.
sure,
You said it a
as
lot better
blood.
than I did.
Yeah.
I'm a simple man.
No, it's
Try
dude.
to
I listen, man. I've practiced that rant
yeah,
hundreds and hundreds of times. Yeah, like 3 years ago, I didn't know. Yeah, it's just it'll come. It'll come.
yeah.
I'm a simple man.
That's one of the new songs I just discovered. Hey, that's one of my favorites. I
You
got to
just
listen to that.
discovered that song.
Yeah. Like where was I gonna hear it? I know a lot of like
From
more
white
like rock.
people. I don't.
Yeah. If I didn't see it in the '90s movie that I love, I didn't see it. I didn't know because I was I said it on another part. I was insulated. Like when I grew up in the area, it was just all black people. So when I grew up, it was mostly rapping R&B. Then I heard "Achy
Yeah,
Breaky Heart." Every black person knows. Every black person knows "Achy Breaky Heart,"
yeah,
and and then when I got to middle school, that's when I started being more friendly towards Mexicans. I used to didn't like Mexicans because I had two family members killed by Mexicans. So
wow,
for like 4 or 5 years, as a young person, I didn't fool with Mexicans. I saw them as less than until I actually decided to befriend some Mexicans, and I was like, all right. I even realized as I was little, I was like, all right, hating this person because something that somebody else did is stupid. And then towards my junior, senior year, because of football, I became more familiar with white people because we didn't hang out after school. I just knew white people as how they acted in school. But then once I started getting, you get invited to the high school parties and you started seeing like I said this on another part. I used to thought white people were like a different like species type. Like not like they were less than, not like how like the I ain't even gonna get into it, but not like they were less than people, but
yeah.
just like, okay, these are white people, and you have to behave this way around them. You can't speak this
Yeah.
way around them. So,
Interesting. Yeah,
but once I seen like all those nerdy kids getting drunk and high, and
yeah,
I was like, wait a minute, y'all do this too? Like,
yeah. Yeah, I mean, we are extremely different, but
yeah,
we're still the same. That's what's
yeah,
weird about these differences is it's that like I've said many times before, I call myself a racist. I realize
mhm,
racial differences, but to me, I'm just looking at it like reality because
yeah,
I feel that we are different. I think that it's provable that we are different, but we are all the same in that we're
mhm,
sinners. We're either Christian or we're not. That's
mhm,
basically the two religions across all of time.
yeah,
And we can have agreement, we can have I don't know, we can have a certain level of intermingling of just like hanging
yeah,
out, but it's
yeah,
like the most of the people just won't even acknowledge that the differences are there. So
yeah,
in my opinion, they're the weird ones. It's just it's
mhm,
clearly the key or the starting point to getting along is acknowledging that yeah, there are differences, but it's all good. That was
yeah,
always the approach growing up, And now it's this weird, like, we're different in some ways and that's bad, and we're trying to strive towards being the same, but that's bad too because of white supremacy. It's the modern culture is just AIDS, man. So
Yeah.
just
Do
trying
you
to change
remember?
that.
Do you remember that one comedian? I can't remember who it was, but he was talking about how like you used to be able to listen to a crime, like you didn't have to listen, you didn't have to watch the TV, but you could hear a crime caught on, you be like, oh, that's a black person, oh, that's a white
Yeah.
person. Like he
Yep.
was like drive by, okay, that's a black person. And then he
Yep.
said the DC sniper is the one messed it up. He's like, you hear a sniper? He was like, oh, that's a white person. Then he said once he found out he was shooting out the back of what it was, a Caprice Classic. He was
Yeah.
like, God
You're like,
dang, that's one
black
of
guy.
us.
Black guy. Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah.
I've never heard this bit, but it makes
I
total
gotta find it. I'll
sense.
send it to you when I find it. But it's just one of those, it's just like when I do the white people activities things. I try to make them harmless. Like I
Yeah.
don't do it to denigrate white people.
Mhm.
But
Yeah.
it's just some stuff you can see, and you be like, yeah, black people, we're not doing that. And plus,
That's
the
what I'm
black people
saying.
activity posts, they don't fly. Black people get too sensitive, or they just don't have fun with it as much as white people do. So that's why.
What I'm saying though is like, how can you? And I'm not trying to challenge you too much, but how can you say that and say that there's not these two distinct cultures?
Man,
Like,
I don't freaking know.
yeah,
I'm still in the middle of it because
you're still on your walk. Yeah. Because
yeah,
like, to me, it's like I've talked about this on my show before, where it's like once something gets around past the 80% perceived 75 to 80% threshold, you're hereby like allowed to generalize. And in my opinion, it's like you're right. I mean, if you take a black dude from Florida, from Texas, from California, from the sticks, from Michigan, they are all going to be acting differently. But if you find enough of them, they're still going to be acting differently like black people. And if you take white people from those individual places, they will all be acting differently within their race, but they're still going to be generally acting like whites. And to me, that is pretty simple proof of you can't just say American. I mean, you could, but you wouldn't be describing the situation properly. Same thing with Asians. You would be like, okay, sure, it's American, but also why do Asian people act like that no matter? I mean, like that enough. So it's like you need, I mean, to me, it's like race and skin color are not the same thing. Like you are not black because of the color of your skin. The color of your skin is one of the symptoms, or it's downstream from race, and the name for that race in these times is called black. It's not like you're as black as this microphone or whatever. It's just that's just the word for that race. And it's you know, I see these things as very distinct, and sure, they don't act the same. I don't know, man. I think Africans still act like black people. I mean, they don't act the same as American blacks.
I would say that when it comes to things like magic, it's like that celebratory nature. Like when they you know how we when we laugh, it's like it's a very celebratory. Like even I tell you, one of the most beautiful scenes I've seen. It was like hundreds of thousands of Africans praising God, and you just see them jumping up and down, and I was just like, that was and it's like in the middle of this wide open field.
Yeah.
And but like that's why I'm still trying to figure that. I just
You're
hate
still
that,
on your walk. Yeah.
I think what it is, I just hate that it's being it's being used more as a weapon.
Yeah.
When it doesn't have to be. Just like how
it
I
doesn't
told
have
you,
to be. You're right.
how we said we like to handle it with humor. Like I think that's how it should almost always be handled.
Yeah.
But,
let me ask you something. Why are black people so superstitious, man? Like why? Because the thing is like I might have mentioned this last night on the show. The first like 35 to 50 conspiracies I ever heard about were all from black people, and they're all. I guess we've talked about before. I mean, there's a culture of in some ways righteous mistrust of institutions, but it's like you said, like magic, and they're just always so. I guess maybe I'm answering my own question, but maybe you can shine some light into that. Like why I've just always found black people be very, very superstitious. Do you have any thoughts on that?
If I had to speculate, I'd say it's because we weren't hit by those great enlightenment people so much that took all of the spirituality out of everything. And then the second thing would be the distrust of white people. Because if you look at a lot of things we did, it's just like, okay, we tried to simulate, this is not working. We're just gonna do what the opposite of what white people do. If they like this, we're gonna do the opposite. You know what I mean? So If they say this is safe, nah, we're not gonna go with it. Because even when I
Right.
read I think it was Up From Slavery, he mentioned that stuff. He was like, black people, they were just like, oh, white people voting this way, we're gonna vote the opposite. They didn't question it, they didn't think about it at all. It was just like, we're not gonna do what white people do because of this.
Yeah.
And like I said, they were still more connected to the spiritual, in my opinion, because I think I think Christians for at least the last couple hundred years, they let science dictate how we read the Bible instead of letting the Bible speak for the Bible. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Just how they grasped on the evolution. Because I think, didn't you mention it might have been Jeremy. One of you guys mentioned that how people didn't believe in creation or something like that, and I'm just like, how? It's clearly written right there.
Yeah.
And like even
I don't
now,
know. I don't know what the whole lineage on that is, but I do see the white race is more up here, and I do
yeah,
see the black race is more down here. Like
yeah,
that, there and there's good and bad things about both, but I see where you're coming from. Yeah.
yeah. I don't even remember where else I was going with that one.
Sorry, I interrupted you, man. My bad.
No, you good. But and I don't think it's necessarily a bad thing. Like you don't want to totally like disregard science, but I think we should let the Bible speak for itself, and then actually do let science be actual science, not all these theories that we throw out and call science.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
because even now like I was talking with my dad, and I was like, Dad, what do you think stars are? And he was like, "What do you think they are?" I was like, "Well, I was like, my personal opinion. I was like, it said he refers to the stars as the host of heaven, which he also refers to his angels as the host of heaven. So I would probably think they're angels, because I was like, if they are a ball of gas, how do we? I like, it'd be easy if you just went up there and grabbed an ounce of the gas. I was like, but I really don't know it, because we were going off about everything. Because you know how it gets when you've been lied to someone, you start to question everything. And I'm like, well, he says the moon is a lesser light. He doesn't say it's a rock. I mean, it could still be a rock,
Mm.
but he calls it a lesser light. And then I do know we so-called went to the moon, and then we gave one country a moon rock. They said it was
It
petrified
was just
wood.
wood. Yeah. It was just wood.
So it's just like,
Yeah.
I still think it's a possibility that it's not a rock, because I don't see any other rocks reflect light like that. But I'm like, that's still, I'm not making a statement of fact. I'm just speculating. So I'm just trying to study. I'm just trying to I'm trying to conform my world now to the Bible and unlearn a
Yeah.
lot of stuff I was taught. Because
It's hard to do. Yeah. It's
yeah,
hard to do, and it's like a lifetime of work. And
mhm,
yeah, the thing is though, is I used to be way more staunch, flat Earth, space is fake and gay,
mhm,
the cosmos and everything about them are what the Bible says, but it calls into question a lot of other things. Like, first of all, what is the true meaning of the word literal? To me, that is one thing that the word gets misused a lot, because what they really mean is like physical, like as
mhm,
physically described rather than literal. I mean,
yeah,
literary works are mostly fiction, but
mhm,
fiction isn't even false. It just isn't true in the hello, I'm my birth name type
yeah,
deal, but it points to a larger truth through archetypes and fiction narratives. So
mhm,
I mean, I used to think that the Bible, I mean, I do think the Bible is true, obviously,
yeah,
in all ways, but it wasn't intended to be an astronomy or a science
yeah,
book. Now,
true.
there's scientific things in the Bible and
Mhm,
all that, but it's like just saying that, oh, it says firmament and it says the foundations of the earth. And in Isaiah, it says he transcribed a circle, therefore flat earth.
yeah,
I don't see, and I'm not trying to be a NASA cuck. I'm not trying
yeah,
to say we went to the moon. I'm just saying that it's a little bit deeper, that it's like our world, our debate sphere, our commentary sphere, just how one argues with another person
mhm,
is always this. They're always setting up a dichotomy, and
yeah,
most of the time it's a false dichotomy. They're saying like round earth, flat earth, and it's either the Bible's true or the Bible's not true.
mhm,
And this is something that's a little bit more important to me than NASA and moon rocks. Even though I'm into
mhm,
that stuff, I
yeah,
just, I know we both kind of come from the Owen Benjamin background.
yeah,
This is
yeah,
one of the reasons that I stopped listening to Owen, because he is just he's caught up in this false dichotomy thing
Yeah.
so bad. And it's just like, if it's a psyop, it's fake. Okay. Now a psyop isn't always fake. They do all kinds of psyops that are completely legit, but they're just psyops. So I don't know what to think about the whole thing. I mean, but if you're gonna like put a gun to my head and be like, all right, do you trust NASA or no? I'm gonna be like, nah, or like NASA or the Bible. Obviously, I know who I'm choosing, but it's interesting. There's some videos I can send you on it. Have you heard of this dude Michael Heiser before?
Yeah, that name sounds familiar. Is he a Christian too?
Yeah, he's a big time. Well, he's dead now, but a big time ancient language scholar. He's a master of like 10 different ancient Semitic languages, and he not debunks. He calls into question a lot of this stuff of just like, it does not necessarily mean that it's flat or that space is fake, because of context of words and all that. But I'm getting out of my IQ depth here, but yeah.
It's good, and then like I'm trying to be more careful with my words, because I was telling somebody not too long ago. I was like, when I address stuff like that, I try not to say I believe it. Like I'll just say, like I said, I speculate. I'm speculating about it, because if I want to say, when I say believe, I believe something. I want it to be solid. Like I believe Jesus Christ is Lord. Like that's solid. I'm not
solid.
backing off. I'm not backing off that. So I'm trying to learn better ways to state things like that, and like. If I speculate about it and I'm leaning this way, but I feel like I can be changed on it, then I'll just try to not say that I believe it.
Yeah, or you just leave the way I square that, because that's very wise of you. And I think what one has to do is you have to deal with that issue somehow. You have to deal with the lack of knowledge of a thing. And there's a limited number of ways to get around it. There's don't talk about it. And I love to talk, so I don't do that. What I do is I try to leave the door open, or I try to present the other side, or I just say, I could be wrong. This is what the opposition says. I'm reasonably sure about this thing. Just saying. And, since I like talking so much, I always try to, it's called falsifiability, where you would tell the person what it would take for your case to be untrue. And there's all kinds of different techniques and what we're really discussing is intellectual humility, where you're making a claim. We have to make claims in this life, and we don't know many things completely 100% true. And then we're beings that are instilled with language and speaking ability. So to deal with that, you kind of have to just be humble and just say, I don't know, blah blah blah. But like there's certain things that's just like ironclad. I would die on it. I mean, thankfully, we're not like in those times, but we would have to die on the truth of Jesus Christ if presented with that. I mean, that's a core tenet of the Christian faith. So that's for sure.
Yeah. Well, all right. We're finna switch it up. I don't even know how to segue that, but I just want to let you guys know that out of these two guys you see on this screen or you listening to, only one of us has been to jail. And it's not the black guy.
Wow. We can heal. We can racism solved, dude. The racial situation in America has been solved. That's right. I have been to jail. And J6 was not my first time. I've actually done three different stints in various jails.
Well, before you get to the big one, can we hear about the other two if you do not mind?
Sure. Yeah, sure. Okay. So that's funny. I'm not sure if I've ever talked about this on there. I was a big time partier in high school and college, and basically I got caught drinking with my friends. We were like 16, and they covered up the license plate for some reason. They came and picked me up. I snuck out of this person's house that I was asleep. I was like doing a sleepover, snuck out, drank a little bit, and got picked up by the cops. And I'm hazy on the details. I know I got caught drinking, and then I violated probation, and then failed a drug test, and then violated again, something like that. So they sent me to jail, I think for 6 days in the county jail. That was when I believe it was 18. Yeah. And then when I was 20 or something like that, I had gotten in trouble again at a party, got a minor in possession of alcohol, and then just didn't show up to court. Kept smoking weed, kept just being an idiot, right? Yeah. And then finally I got pulled over, arrested, because I had a warrant out for my arrest. And this is actually interesting. This is before I moved to DC. And they were trying to put me on probation for several more years after I already had been on for a couple of years, and I was just like, bruh, I was like, I plead guilty, just take me to jail. And I actually think that was one of the more wise moves of my life, where I just where I was just like, nah. She's like, you know, I could give you up to 90 days, and I was like, yeah. I was like, it's better than 2 years. And she sentenced me, I think, to like 45 days, and I think I did like just under 30 or something like that in the local county jail. And it's interesting, this lady, this judge, her name's Judge Smalls, and she would always bust people in high school, people in college for little things like drinking and pot smoking and stuff like that. Years later, she got convicted of like a massive corruption scandal. Dang, where she was like, yes, and she and just women, dude. I mean, I don't think they should be on any bench, dude, including sports. Yeah, and so those were the first, and then after that, I once I got off and I kind of cleared my record, I just moved to DC. I told her, I was like, listen, I'm moving. I don't want to be on probation. I'll take the days, and that kind of cleared my conscience, or cleared my life, so I can move to DC. And then the third time was J6.
Yeah. So I want you to, what was the atmosphere like before that? Because I'll tell you, there's two, I do photography. I don't know if you know. Have I said that before?
No, I didn't know that. Oh.
Well, yeah. But my favorite thing to do is events. But I was like, there's 2 events that I've missed that I wish I could have went to. Three. I wish I could have went to the Jan 6, the Trump inauguration, and the Obama inauguration. Those were huge. I actually, you know, when they were burning down stuff in Atlanta, I was about to go down there, but I can't remember what kept me from going down there. So I probably got some good footage there. But I love capturing that type of stuff, those type of events. But let's just go back. What was the atmosphere like there before everything went down?
Yeah, well, first of all, I will say you haven't done an event at all, right? Like I know no. We got to do an event together, man.
All right.
Because I'm pretty experienced at this point. I'll show you what to do. I'll stream. We'll hang out. Like, that would be cool to do an in-person event. We'll be in touch about that. But yeah, I mean, J6, it's interesting how, and I guess I'll point people to my channel real fast. On Call Me Ignorant, I give a longer explanation of my on the ground journalism career, if you can call it that. But J6 was the culmination of 2 different things, or I guess 3. Number one, it was the culmination of 2020. It was the culmination of the Stop the Steal campaign. And it was the culmination of, in my opinion, I don't know where you would draw the line, but an up to 100-year process of a certain voting block being ostracized from the system. I didn't know this until a couple months ago. I had this guy on, Thomas 777, who studies history, and he's a writer, and he walked me through the political and ideological lineage of what is now called the MAGA movement. And it goes back to not World War I, but to the just before the Great Depression. And these people, those were these people's grandparents in a lot of cases. And it was the culmination of at least 50 years of the country changing, of white people. Now, the thing is, most of the people, as you know, who are MAGA supporters, they're like completely race blind, and they're the biggest, just, one race, the human race. They don't understand this dynamic. Yet J6 was hundreds of thousands of white people showing up pissed off. So, you know, I had worked the night of the election, the Million MAGA March, and the Stop the Steal protest in DC. So this was my 4th event in DC in that season. So I would, to me, I had been in group chats, I had been in whatever, and they're saying, hey, this is the big one. Pence is going to certify the vote. We need everyone there. There was no talk of anything other than like, this is it. Honestly, it was almost like a goodbye affair, because we weren't really that confident that Pence was, or establishment Republicans were going to do the right thing. So it was like a way of almost even seeing Trump off. But I was there on the ground, met up with Let's Be Frank. Actually, he wasn't involved. He didn't go in. He didn't even go close. It was, and we'll get to that. But met up with him, walked around. It was electric. I mean, there was definitely more than 1 million MAGA people in DC that day. It was crazy. It was the biggest one I've ever been to in my life. And I went over. We like a group of people went over to the east side of the Capitol during Trump's speech. I mean, so the west side of the Capitol was where Ashley Babbitt got shot, and the picture that's behind you in your backdrop, that's the west side. I was on the other side, and but it was the same kind of deal where we're standing on top of these like elevated Potter plant platforms. It's huge. You can fit like 50 people on them, and this guy's got a megaphone and he's playing Trump's speech at the ellipse into the megaphone so people can hear. I'm standing up top. I'm streaming. It's part of like a 9-hour live stream. And the energy is just picking up. I mean, it's a normal protest, but people are pissed and they know that certain things happen in the election. Not sure exactly what we can say, but
say it. I'm not going to get monetized. If you listen to the other one, I'm not going to get monetized. Good to say it.
Yeah. So they had, they knew the election was fake, right? Yeah. So there's definitely were agent provocateurs there. There are definitely bad actors and people that you might call feds or whatever. But for the most part,
hold on. So you believe, like with your own eyes, that there were like you saw people, you're like, man, this guy's a fed. Did you?
Oh yeah. But my point is, the reason I don't talk about that or even agree with it that much is because there weren't enough. I mean, there were like 500,000 people outside of the Capitol. I mean, was it allowed to happen? I think so, because I mean, Nancy Pelosi had her documentary crew in the Capitol that they were ready to shoot a movie. There were definitely people that I would call feds there, but more than anything, there's people that I would call like Antifa or agent provocateurs. There are people snapping pictures, whatever. I mean, if you got all these burly white bearded dudes and then like some small fag is just like dressed in a MAGA hat and doesn't even look that's usually a person that is offside or whatever. But I'm standing up there, I'm streaming, and people are getting, they're just like, they're getting whipped up by themselves. I think that it was mostly the Patriots whipping themselves up because they're saying these, and they're saying things like, I don't know, things I completely disagree with. Like, that's our house. I'm like, no, it's not. That's not what taxes are, dude. And even if they were, I don't believe in the people are sovereign. I mean, I know that me and you are both essentially monarchists, and I don't believe that the people can be sovereign. Like, which brick did you pay for? Like that's my house. Like, no, it's not. So they're just saying like they work for us. This is our house, and I'm just like, whatever, boomer. So I know we agree on a lot of that stuff. So then at a certain point, I mean, they had and this is also not my first or even, it's like probably my 20th protest. I was at the George Floyd protest. So I'm no stranger. They set up barricades. If it gets too crazy, they start tear gassing people. I had my tear gas mask on. I've been tear gassed before. So I always come with a gas mask, and I don't have it on yet, but all of a sudden you see the people at the front like pulling the steel barricades, and they get one and they pass it back through the crowd, and then everyone just runs through. I'll say it right now, I did not experience that much of like, oh, this way, sir, right into the Capitol. It was a struggle. It was a riot. They took those barricades and like everyone ran through, and then it just popped off. It just popped. And we had heard, I think this was actually the breach of the east side barricade was after the west side. So I'm sure people had heard that it was happening on the other side. So we ran through, and this is late, this is the early 2021, 6 months earlier at the George Floyd ones. I'd seen people throwing bricks at cops, and I was like, shoot these people. I was like, why would you not shoot them? And I'm running up there, and I'm like, I'm about to get shot right now. And I was like, and people were like running on top of the Secret Service cars, like just walking over them, like on top of them. And I was like, we're about to get shot right now. But I'm big fan of
white privilege, man. That's white privilege.
Dude, I know. You got to milk it. You got to use it, right? Yeah.
Hey, I use my black privilege when I can.
I was gonna say, like, I'm doing the weekly rumble just so I can say what I want in the presence of black men. You don't get in trouble these days. But yeah, so the energy was electric. It's a long answer to your question, but the energy was really electric, and it was angry, and it was entitled. That's what I think one of the big hallmarks of a riot or a protest is entitlement.
Can you explain that a little bit?
Yeah, I mean, it kind of goes to the thing I was speaking about earlier about like the people as sovereign, and that's our house, and we're owed this thing. And sometimes it's justified. Now, I don't consider entitlement to be as bad of a word as other people. I think many times it is, but entitlement is fine when you have jurisdiction and turf. Like you as a father are actually entitled to a good bit of things. You know, you earn it. I mean, earning something earns your entitlement in a way.
Yeah.
So, but whether justified or not, I mean, I think that these people were like, we deserve this. We're what, no matter where you draw the line, whether it's 100 years ago, 50 years ago, that year, the year before, they're like, you know, we've been getting, it's grievance. And grievance is a form of entitlement. And sometimes it's completely justified. If someone really disrespects you, especially like a friend, someone who like if a wife really disrespects her husband in public, he's entitled to feel a certain way about that and treat her a certain way to get her back in line. So I don't view entitlement as totally a bad thing, but it's this people. These are all constitutionalists. All these people they're under their philosophical underpinning. While they say they're Christian, they're constitutional Republicans who believe in the people as sovereign. So if you violate those core tenets, you have committed blasphemy. And so it essentially was a religious affair. And what we did is when we went in there, we desecrated their temple, which was a blasphemous act against the left. So this, in a way, is like a religious struggle that got ignited either that day or with the events surrounding it. So that was the air of, and also was confusion and chaos, and people just didn't know. I mean, it was just so crazy seeing grandmas up in there, dude. It was crazy. But
I saw the one picture of the one old lady. Is she famous? Is she still locked up? She just like,
I don't know what the deal with everyone is. I can't believe there are still people in jail. I get conspiratorial about the J6 thing, but not like normal people do. I think something's up with these people that are still locked up. I mean, I took a plea deal and I was out that day. I mean, I didn't plead guilty that day, but I was out that day. I got arrested on February 1st. I was out that day on conditions. I got a public defender, the easiest thing in the world. And I pled guilty to a BS charge, and I got sentenced right away. And I don't understand. Everything that they say about the DC gulag was the exact opposite for me, where I was like, just plead guilty to whatever. You're gonna lose. They got the judges and everything on their side. I was just like, I'm gonna save money. I'm gonna plead guilty. And I don't know. I feel like there's some shenanigans going on with like they want to be in there, or like
they want to be martyrs. They want to make martyrs. And they want to feel like we're standing for something. We're persecuted.
You're gonna lose, man. Just it ain't, dude. The Constitution is not Jesus. Okay,
and then that's another thing. They're like, they hate us. I was like, you're only supposed to be hated for Christ's sake, not Trump's sake, not MAGA's sake, not the American flag's sake. You're only if you're hated for any other sake other than Christ's sake, you're doing it wrong. So I went up there, I just love history. I mean, I got off probation about a couple months ago, and until that point, I never really told the truth about the full truth. I spoke my mind and I didn't lie. But now that I'm off probation, it was just one of the best days of my life, man. It was so fun. It was so historical. I was cracking jokes. I mean, seeing that viewer count spike to 55,000 in like an hour and a half was so insane. I'm probably a total narcissist because I'm just like, yo, it's lit. I'm like, it's crazy. Like, I don't know. I'm just like literally like world star. I'm like, yo, get the content. Look at this. I had my tear gas on, but my whole life fell apart in 48 hours. It was falling apart actively during the stream. So, was that like lost a job? Were you in? What was that?
Bro, I lost my job. I lost my mortgage, and I got bailed out by some people in my family, so I could still buy my house. Lost my job, lost my mortgage, lost almost every friend I ever had up to that point because they were all liberals. A lot of my family is not a big fan, but it's family, so it's okay. So it's reasonably cool there. But I was like, people were doxing me to the FBI in real time during the stream. And they were also saying stuff like almost like, what is it? in real life swatting me. They're saying like this guy is a dangerous white supremacist. He's on the streets with a gun.
Oh, snap.
Cops, you got, yeah. So they're basically trying to end my life that day.
Yeah.
So I got like all that. My entire, almost my entire quantifiable life ended that day. My spiritual life didn't. I still had some good friends, good relationships, but the way you would measure it, it's like what, a house, a car, money, friendships, social status bottomed out that day. It went to negative numbers that day, and I kind of had to build it up over the last couple of years.
Well, it sounds like you just lost dross. Ain't that what they call it when you're furnishing the gold? When you put the gold in the furnace and all that left, it just removed the dross. And at the time, like when I quit drinking, I thought I lost friends, but I only lost drinking buddies. Like the ones that I kept, the ones that I have now, even the ones that aren't Christians, those are the real friends. I didn't lose any real friends.
Interesting.
So like
dross, yeah.
So it seems like that's what it was, and it.
Yeah, it was terrible at the moment, but it was actually the best thing that ever happened to me. Yeah. So I'm kind of just putting you in the perspective of those 3 to 6 months there. But now it's because a lot of those relationships were just fake. I was always regarded as kind of the right wing guy in the music scene, or just kind of the extremist, the non-liberal. But since then, it was just completely freeing. And those people didn't, and because I got doxxed to the FBI by some of my best friends, and they did it to hurt me, but they didn't realize how much they were helping me. So, good for them. I hope they find Christ one day. There's not much that I would speak to those people about anymore other than Jesus. There's really not much to say between us other than presenting the gospel and them, I don't know, throwing a drink in my face or something like that. But, it was insane, man. It taught me so much. And I wasn't really even that right wing at the time. I was starting to get there because of the George Floyd thing. But after J6, it kind of gave me permission to explore far right ideas like race and the Jews and stuff like that for the first time. And that really kicked off my intellect. I thought that I had my intellectual lineage or a lot of training before that point, but I was kind of an idiot until around mid 2022. It took me, I'm a really late bloomer. So after that, it just gave me permission to chase the truth as I saw it for, just unhinged for, and also I had a lot of time on my hands. So so it was one of the best days ever. And I have to think about what I'm going to do should it happen again. Because I'm going to the DNC this summer. I'm going to the RNC. I'm going to Trump's sentencing. Elections coming up. There's probably going to be shenanigans. Do I go in again? Do I play it cool? I don't know. But I feel like if I take my job seriously, I got to do it again.
Yeah, you kind of do. Yeah. That's real journal. If you want to call yourself a journalist, that's real journalism.
Yeah,
and exactly. I got to thinking, I was like, would I go in? I would have been with y'all up until y'all went in the inside.
Well, okay. So the thing is they're arresting people that didn't go inside. So I think if you cross that barricade, then it's you're at risk.
Let me tell you, I'm scarred because I'm gonna tell you why I said that because I'm scarred because there's been 2 instances when I was in school where I was sticking up for white people, and then they left me hanging. And I remember that, and I've told people this in like real life, and so like I was just like I remember at that second time I was like I'm not sticking up for white people no more, and for a little while I had a resentment. I wouldn't say I hated white people, but I was just like, no, I'm not gonna help them do this. And you know what got me out of that one? It was something stupid. It was what got me out of it was I was driving. I used to drive a Caprice, drug dealer car, but I don't sell drugs, and. I just remember I was really mad at white people that day. I don't even remember what it was about, but I would just remember like we in the car with the boys and I'm just talking about white people. And a white guy comes by, he's passing me and he flashes his lights. And I'm like, darn, this is a cop up here. And I slow down and there's a cop car up there. And it was that little gesture that I was just like, all right, I'm being stupid. I was like, it was that little thing that I was just like, okay. It's not all white people. Like it was just something simple. It's something as simple as that.
Interesting.
But sometimes it will come up where I'm just like, I don't know if I can trust all white people. And there's a lot of people like that. Like,
Well,
I'm
you
like,
can't. You can't.
well,
You can't
yeah,
trust all white
of
people.
course that, but it's just like I don't even know about like like when I seen I'm like, oh, this way too many. Like for me, I'm like, oh, that's way too many white people. And these white people don't know me, so I know they
Yeah.
ain't got my back. So that's what I would have said, especially after seeing MAGA folks get beat up all summer. They were getting beat up online. You seen them get? I was like, man, y'all ain't even fighting back. This is
Yeah.
crazy. They was getting beat, except
Yeah.
for like not Patriot Front. God dang, what's that one?
The Proud Boys?
Proud Boys. They
Mm.
did some fighting back. But
Yeah.
other than that, everybody else was getting whooped. So I would have been like, nah, I'm up to y'all go ahead and go in because I'm just saying I would have been like, these white folks ain't got my back. But
Yeah.
did you see that stats I made earlier? I was like, these are the guys I fool with. If you would have been fitting that group, if you'd have been like the hood white boy, the rednecks, I said some grow uppers, which I kind of throw you in there, but you didn't already. You kind of put yourself in the hood nigga category too with the rapping. I didn't even say hood nigga, but I'm gonna say hood folks. But you know what I mean.
I thought it though. Yeah, I think it when I rap. I'm like, but yeah. I mean, look, I'll accept the Groyper label. I'm independent, so but
Yeah.
I align most with the America First movement. Obviously, I've been to several of these conferences of other groups too, and the Groyper energy, the Nick Fuentes, and I agree with almost everything Nick Fuentes says, other than that he's a Catholic, and I'm not a Catholic. But yeah, white people are sad, man. I hate to admit it because I'm proud of being white. I'm very proud of what white people have accomplished. But these last 20 or 30 years worth of whites is really sad. And I'm kind of ashamed of it. I'm not ashamed of them because they're white. Well, I guess I am because I want them to be excellent. I want them to be excellent and they're not. And they do just roll over. And I think a lot of them are much more racist than they let on and they try to overcorrect. But I see what you're saying. They're cowardice. We talked about this last night. Is a big hallmark of whites these days, and it's just a disaster, man. There's no corner of our society that you can point to and just be like, all right, that's good. That's like net positive. The American church, blacks, whites, anything. Like you can't point to anything and not see a bunch of rot. So I see what you're saying, man. I see what you're saying.
Because I feel the same way. Like how you say you want to see excellence. I'm the same way with black people. I like I think yesterday I think you called yourself a white supremacist on the stream. I would say I'm the same. I would like when I hear something, I would like if there's the smartest person in the world, I would wish they were black. If there's the most athletic person on the world, I wish they were black. If there was the best musician, I want them to be black. And that's not like I want them to be black at the expense of whites. Like I'm just like, hey, I just think it's cool if this person look like me. And if they don't, I don't care because especially when the Olympics come around, I don't care if you're black, white. We're all American then. But it's just one of those things. It was like you can enjoy these things without hating on other people.
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, and so do you do consider black people your people?
As of now,
yeah,
because like even like I historically I feel like when black people have tried to assimilate, we don't get the same, like we didn't get the same treatment as like and I understand because it's people can't get past the physical, so it wasn't as easy to assimilate as it was for the Irish and well shoot even some of the Jews, they're white when they want to be, and
yeah.
So I think that physical barrier has hindered us, and so I'm just and then like I said, it's the trauma, it's the trauma from me not trusting white folks sometimes where I'm just like I feel like if it all go down, I can only trust my niggas and some and a few rednecks because some rednecks can be racist. Not all of them are racist.
Dude, a lot of rednecks are like indistinguishable from black people, dude.
No, it's
it's crazy, man. I mean, yeah, like we kind of talked about earlier with the country and hip hop thing, and it's insane. And yeah, I mean, I do consider I don't consider all white people to be my people, but I do consider. Actually, I kind of do actually, but there's different levels to who your people are. Like obviously, I would consider you my people, because you're an American and you're a Christian, right? And but as far as we don't share kin like that. That's just fact. And there's something that's not lost there, but that's little bit different there. And I think that's why I think we're drawn. And it's not just the physical. I mean, it I don't know. We're just drawn. I'm just drawn.
Let me tell you how I kind of see it. This is the best way I can explain it. How I kind of see it. Like white people as the predominant, population. I see white people as this America is their house. Blacks are the adopted child.
Based.
So no matter how. So as the adopted child, the parents still love the adopted child, but no matter how much they love the child, they'll never be that blood child.
Yeah.
Or just like or we could even be the cousins. And like, let's say, all right, if the parent has to protect their own child or the cousin, they're always going to protect their child over the cousin.
Yeah.
And so that's how I see this. Like, so it's not necessarily hate. It's just there's a priority. So I don't even get mad I used to, but I don't get mad if a white man wants to promote a white man to a position. I understand that because in my head that makes sense. That's logical.
That's based. Especially absolutely. I agree with everything you just said. That's a really good way of putting it. Yeah. It's like the adopted child, because it's like even with actual blood children, you have two blood children. This might be controversial because I'm not a father, but it's like, you love them both the same, but you might like one more. I don't mean in terms of you just like there's such a thing as chemistry.
Yeah.
And so you don't have to broadcast that. Like, this is my son and this is my favorite son. Like, you would never do that. Everyone knows that there is a preference to all kinds of things. As soon as you're presented with two different options, you can kind of feel your preference, and people can kind of tell that as well. And it is true that America is a white country. I mean, just look at how it went down. I mean, white people bought black slaves, and now
white people are afraid to admit that. They want to say it's melting pot. That's why when I say, all right, if it's melting pot, then you got to get rid of the label. You got to get rid of the white American, black American, Asian American. You got to get rid of all the extra stuff.
What we do is we get rid of the melting pot. The thing that's wrong with that is not the thing that's wrong with that is the melting pot. It's not I understand that that's the logical conclusion. And it's like, I have this melting pot. We got to play with it. It's like, what if I throw it out the window? Then we don't have to do any of that. Right.
But a lot of people too cowardly to even say that.
And dude, like, it's happening, man. One day.
And like, I understand, like, I understand the logic around it. And then like, I've talked to you enough that I'm like, all right, ain't no hating that. It's really just real life. It's consistent. And as long as like I would say, I don't have a problem with in-group preferences when people, as long as they're not putting up barriers for other people to do the same in their own group or something like that. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So you're saying that like in group, so you're not saying they have to allow other people into their group. You're saying as long as the other groups are allowed to do the same, right?
Yeah.
That's just rightly ordered. Yeah. That's what I think I think that most things would, I'm not a big liberty guy or whatever, but what we really are describing is what proper liberty kind of is. It's like, I'm allowed to be with me and mine, and then you're allowed to be with you and yours. There are some things that are kind of a fixed pie. I don't know what it all would be. I mean, land might be this way. Like, if you've your one plot of land, you're like, this is literally mine. And there's some things that you have to make a choice. It's not even just race. It's all kinds of groups. Like, there's a limited amount of resources. There's a limited amount of women. There's a limited amount of jobs or whatever. But that's pretty specific. In general, there's enough land, enough space, and enough dirt that we can fashion things out of, that the different groups can be, I hate to say it, like, it's not separate but equal, but it's like separate but fine to live. Kind of
separate equal sounds right, but it just has a bad.
Yeah, it has that bad connotation. Yeah,
because go ahead.
No, you're fine.
I was talking with a guy on another pod, and it is something I've been thinking about too. I was like, I don't even think black people should be living north of the Mason-Dixon. Like I think,
Yeah, you mentioned that once. Yeah.
further North Carolina, I think black all the way across further North Carolina. I don't think because genetically we need that sun so we can absorb more vitamin D.
Mm.
And so when we're staying up there in God dang New York or some of those northern countries, like we're out of place. And
Yeah.
then like Africans typically they don't live close together. Like there's communities, but they're more spread out. So I was thinking like we shouldn't even be in apartment buildings. Like that's not even how we function when we
Yeah.
were in Africa. I was like, I think we should be closer to the south. We probably should, as America, we probably should annex Mexico. We're gonna take Mexico from them. We're gonna move some black folks over there. We'll mix with the Migos, and then
True.
we'll just goddamn spread out a bit and farm. Y'all can have that industrial stuff. Y'all gonna have gay.
We're good at it. I mean, we're so good at it. Like
but
the
then
white
you'll have
man.
gay pride parades within the next 7,500. Not just playing.
No, we won't. No, not under my system. Well, it's funny, I mean, it's kind of a joke, but it's kind of real. I feel like a lot of the black crime would be because the thing is okay. This is kind of an interesting premise. So many black criminals. I mean, they film it on Instagram. They brag about it. They literally don't care about life. They're like, it's like they don't care about their life or the others' lives. Okay, so you can't threaten them with losing their life because they don't care about that, but they hate the cold. All right. So like it's like, so you're like, yo, if you murder someone, I'm shipping you to the northest point of Canada. Yeah. I feel like they're like, oh hell no. Like you can kill me, but
and
like do not
all white people food. It's unseasoned.
Bro, yeah, season. Yeah, exactly. So you have to capitalize on their passions. They're passionate people. Because if you end their life, it's just over. They don't have to. Yeah, but you have to capitalize on the passions to deal with black crime.
You know what I think would help? This is not biblical, so I wouldn't. This is just an idea. You have to punish mama because black guys, no matter how degenerate they are, they love mama. Whether we're degenerate or a saint, mama gets even more respect than dad, even when he's in the house. Mama gets a different type of love. So if you say you get out here shoot Pookie, mama's going to jail.
Dang, dude, that's hardcore, man. Like you said, not biblical, but a man's got to think outside the box in times like these, right?
See, it'd have to be the death thing. Like you're not gonna I'm not even gonna. Yeah, it's death, because not just to threaten them. It's just like you're getting rid of a cancer. Like you have to get rid. Like it's no plan. I'm not sending you off to jail for 10, 12 years. Nah, it's. You do this certain crime, it's over. It's like
it should be like I used to a lot of what I've dealt with on my show over kind of the period of 2020 to 2022. I talk about it less now, but I mean, I had never really thought about Law and Order that much until the George Floyd thing. And then when I was doing that, I was out in the street covering the riots in DC, and then I'd be streaming the next day talking about it with the live chat. We'd be trying to kind of hash this stuff out. I feel like in the vast majority of cases, there just shouldn't be jails. There should be death. There should be enslavement. There should be and so enslavement as in they're working to create something, that benefits society. Yeah. There's whippings, like there's physical punishment, like beatings. Yep. And fines. In the Roman times and many, many different societies, the only jails that existed was essentially expedited death row. Like nowadays people sit on death row for decades and sometimes they just get off. But in that day, you would be in jail for, I think, a week to a month, and then you'd be put to death. So it'd be just like death row. So I think that really that part of the monarchy worldview is understanding that. Like I can tell that you get that whole, it's like, why would you have jails where some lawyer Jewish could get you off and subvert the system? It should just be swift, just, and then it's over. Because anything else, kind of, they say no cruel and unusual punishment. You are both it's cruel and unusual to the prisoner for this multiple decade thing. It's also cruel and unusual to the law-abiding citizen that bears the burden of that. So I think it just makes good sense. Yeah, caning, fines, enslavement for a productive gain, or just physical removal from society. Also, there's exile. I mean, you could just put them somewhere else, and if it's a country that it's got to be in a country that kind of can't go to war with you. Like if we sent these people to like Nicaragua, what are they going to do? I mean, it's like, come on. And they're like, no, that's our sovereign. It's like, okay, well, it's not though, because we own you, because we can bomb you. So like, so I don't know. It's a good issue to talk about.
I don't even know if I would do fines. I was thinking about, because it's gonna lead to exploitation. If you create a sin for the middle, because the middlemen are going to be the ones that is going to benefit more from it. I understand fines help pay for roads or whatever, but I don't really want people to be able to find enjoyment in it. That's why I said on your pod a while back, I was like, even with the death penalty, I'm more in favor of exile, because I'm thinking of the mindset of the executioner. I don't
because sin creeps in. It's like that bloodlust sin, right?
And that's gonna warp his mind, and he'll go and pass that off to his wife and kids. And I was like, nah, I don't want that. So I was like, we'll just send y'all off to this island, and if you come out a certain amount off that island, then you're executed. But there's gonna be guys on like a fishing boat, with a machine gun. We don't know who shot you. It could have been Jeff on the right or Bob on the left. I don't know.
Either way, it's a white guy. It's like, so true. It's like, oh, hey, it's like, hey, it's a nice morning there. Hey, got a fish on the line. It's like, oh, look at it. Hey, here comes one of them. I can't say those words on YouTube, but yeah, I mean, the thing is with the fines, I think like so many of these things, we have to rethink it. We think about it so modern. And if you look at what the Bible or many different times talked about fines, it wasn't the state takes the fine and uses it for whatever purpose it wants. It was just restitution. You just take the money, the government or whoever's in charge of that. Now I'm thinking like a libertarian, which is AIDS, but whoever's in charge of that would take the amount of money that paid for its labor and no more. And then the rest would so it's kind of like 15% tax on top of it. The rest just goes to the family that they offended, the victim's family. And if they can't pay it, then we're talking enslavement, exile / death. But yeah, I do that. Your take on this is one that a lot of people don't think about, which is what about the punisher? What about the executioner? What about the person in charge? Because we all struggle with sin. So it's an interesting take. But the thing is these conversations are important and they're interesting, but they're not as important as straight up just being in power, because we can't do like, I would rather it just be we're in power and then we figure it out, because you see how everyone online, or like when you present these radical so-called ideas to a person who's not hip to them, the first thing they start doing is not a gotcha thing, but they do this situational hypothetical thing. But what about these people? What about this? Is like, how about I get in power and I'm a smart man and I'm going to figure it out.
Exactly.
Exactly.
Like, I don't know now, but I'll figure it out.
I'll figure it out, dude. But that's why I've been trying to move away from ideology a lot more going forward. It's just more about power and who's in charge. I mean, Christ, the story of Christ is obviously true. He's God. So he could have set it up any way he wanted. Now he set it up the way he did, and that does benefit us in non-spiritual ways, of course. But if he set it up, if God set it up in a way that didn't make sense to us, which happens all the time. How many times have you read a passage you don't want it to be true, and you're like, oh no, that doesn't make sense. But what makes the more sense is I am God. So who are you to say, I invented sense. I invented everything. So who are you to say that it's anything other than that? So I think that's the same way with politics. I mean, we are made in the image of and likeness of God. God wields power. He is an authoritarian, a righteous one. He does all kinds of things that make no sense to the people beneath him. And I think that's the same way that a righteous government should work. And a monarch shouldn't have to explain himself to his lessers over and over and over. So it's not about ideology, and everyone becomes their own little private king. That's completely unacceptable.
Yeah.
It should just be there's a king of a certain locality, and there should be checks and balances, mostly from wise other men that could also one day be king. But as far as the peasant having a say in the inner affairs of a state, I mean, that's completely inappropriate to me.
And being able to, that's why voting sucks. The way it is, like, it's just like, man,
it's so
bad. But it just is like, you see the people, especially now, that vote, and just like, man, your right should be revoked. It shouldn't be the felons. I know many felons that are a lot I wouldn't just say smart, wiser than people with no arrest records, went to college. Like, I'm just like, man, nah, this
absolutely. Yeah, there's got to be some sort of, I don't know how to reimagine the whole thing, but again, we would figure it out. If it was just like a blank slate, I will always remember this place needs to be cleansed, man, because it's so true. And if we were to fall today, men in the community would be forced to make their own government pretty soon. And I think that we'd be able to figure it out. But the first thing we would have to get rid of, or the first things, would be democracy and equality. I would say equality, because democracy is a political form of equality. We would have to get rid of that. I don't care if it's like literally just the biggest guys who could kill me are in charge, as long as there's order. And okay, fine. You may not be smart. I'll prove it over time that I'm one of the smart ones that can deal with policy. But there's got to be some sort of limiting principle that makes order, rather than just, hey, I'm equal to the most brilliant guy and the dumbest woman is equal to me. That's just unacceptable on every single level.
Yeah. You were just like, when you were talking, I was just thinking, I was like, all right, who would I allow them to vote? Then I was like, maybe if they were more on a more local level. Then I was like, nah, because if y'all vote for a trans parade, I'm shutting that down. So it's like everything. I'm like, how would I do it? If your votes, or if your thing goes against biblical principles, then I'm just gonna shut it down.
Yeah. Well, but the thing is how would you be able to shut it down? There's only one thing that can do that, and that's the threat of physical force.
I know. I got the knife. I'm king. I'm not
exactly.
I
know. I'm saying, but that is a factor. This is one thing where I actually am happy that I was a libertarian for a time, because libertarians do get this part right. They get almost everything else wrong, but they continuously hammer home that government is force.
Yeah.
And if you don't, that's how you get this soft academic feminist equality government, because they don't acknowledge that it's all just violence or the threat of violence. And you have to acknowledge that.
But that's what men respect: power. They don't respect almost anything more than power. Like,
yes. And women don't respect power. Women respect men. Men respect power, and women respect men who respect power. That's why everything points to, it's just got to be men. It's just doesn't matter the level. It's more consequential on the smaller level. It's no women, dude.
You know what I think is funny is when I express like a view like that and people get offended. I was like, I just said I think it should be this way. I'm not threatening to take your, like, me and this one woman. I'm having on the pod. She was in the she's in the military, and I was like, I don't think women should be in the military. She was like, I was in the military. I did all this, and that. I was like, I'm not saying you're not even capable of doing it. I'm just saying from my perspective, this should not be.
Yeah. Who are you talking about?
Miss Pinkston.
Okay.
She's a conservative person.
Yeah.
She's good. I like her. I'm reading her book now, and I'm gonna have her on here. I respect. Like, I got a homegirl I went to school with. She's in the Space Force, and she was in the military. And I'm like, I respect her accomplishments, but like, if I had my way, I would not. You would not have been there. You know what I mean?
But bro, it's like, but it's proving the point though. It's like, okay, a brother is talking about big issues. He's talking about solving society and how things should work And what are the philosophical principles behind it working? And a woman goes, but what about me? A woman goes, but I was in the military. Like that proves the point right there. You're like, we're talking big brain, big power, big maturity type things. And she's like, but I'm the exception. Not you're the first one that should lose your vote. Anyone that makes it's like, oh, but what about me? I'm like, dude, this isn't even about me. Because I'm saying, I think it would be cool. I think me, you, and almost anyone that we would call based would qualify to be a king over almost anyone else.
Yeah.
But I also don't need it to be me. I just want there to be order. I understand that there's people that are way more qualified, way better leaders. I don't care if it's me. I think that I could do a decent job on a certain small level, but
Yeah.
also it's not about me. If I'm, and I will, when there's a king, I'll kiss the ring, dude. I will bend my knee. I will be a subordinate, and that's fine.
Yeah.
But there's something. It's back to it's the Garden of Eden, man. Women
Yeah.
are just they're there to usurp the male authority. They will always try to do it.
Yeah, and now I see a lot of men, at least on Twitter, they're adopting that as well. Like I'll be talking about, like I'll be addressing black people because sometimes I just have a message that I just want black people to understand this, and usually it's a white guy. He's usually cool, and he'll be like, "Well, white people do that too, or this, and that," and I'm just like, "Bro, I stated it this way for a reason."
So sad, dude. Yeah. It's
Like,
so sad. I mean, and it hurts me so much more when it's one of my white brothers because yeah, it's
some white people they
always a
don't like to
white guy.
be because they don't. It's like they feel excluded, and I'm like, you don't have to be included in everything. Like it's weird because black people do that too when they want to turn, but it's usually the liberals when they want to turn a character to a black person. I'm like, bro, just let the white people be the white. Just
Yeah.
let be what be. And if I'm
Yeah,
like, that's
whites
just my
can't be. I've been saying this for years. Like whites can't just be in this world, man.
yeah,
I'm not this big, and I guess it's true about most people. But
yeah,
it I look at and analyze the mainstream culture and the commentary sphere, and they're like this one group that whites can't just be. They can't be where they are in the way that they are without getting messed with.
yeah,
And we can't lash out or whatever, but it's so true. And I mean, there's been times in history here, and every land, every country has an in group and an out group. And I don't know what the Jim Crow period was really like, but that's an example of whites were the in group and blacks were the out group. And I don't know how to solve it all, but it's not good, especially when, like you said about the adopted son earlier. I mean, this really is a white country, and to be
yeah,
the out group, to be kicked out, to be bred out of your own
yeah,
country, there's an extra level of pain there for me.
yeah. And I think the reason I'm not sure. I'm not debating. I'm deliberating on why white people can't just be. And I think part of it is what Michael X said. He said the sins. I mean, he said the chickens coming home to roost, like the sins of the fathers, like the sins of like the forefathers and the people that
Yeah,
helped women get the right to vote. Like
yeah,
all those are backfiring, and now we're living in that mess up, and so we're having to clean it up. And
yeah. I agree in a way, but
yeah,
I mean, and I got to go
like
relatively soon, but like
yeah.
I think that it's neat. It's not the generational sin thing. I don't
You
know.
don't
I
think
guess I'll just say it. I literally just think it's the Jews, man. like,
that's
like yeah,
the way you go in this show.
I no, we can chill for a lot. That would be a good just unscrews mic drop moment. But yeah, that whole thing, I don't think it's because whites sinned in a big way. I don't think slavery was that big of a national sin. If it was, then it would be happening to every country. Every country, every people group had
Well,
slavery.
I'm not even saying it's just slavery, but think about
Mm,
this: if the Jews did get into power, who let them there? If white people are the majority, someone left the door open. Like they're
mhm,
not saying it was like when I say white people, I'm not saying every white person,
sure.
but one father left the door open.
Yeah.
Somebody prioritized getting their meat
Mhm.
wet, Somebody prioritize.
Yeah, well, that's true. That's what I'm saying. That's why I say in like I disagree or whatever in a way, because
Yeah.
obviously just like the 19th Amendment, women could not have done that, right?
Mhm.
That had to have been men because women couldn't vote. And if it was like you said, if it was a white country, yeah, I mean, we gave into materialism, man. That's what it
Yeah.
was because yeah, usury was a factor and it Jews in a weird way. I mean, I don't consider them white, but they look white in a lot of cases,
Yeah.
and they are from white countries, but they don't share our values. So in a way, we stopped being Christian a long time ago.
Mhm.
Yeah, so there's the whole Old Testament thing. There's the people of the book thing. Judeo-Christian gave way to Judeo-Christian. I mean, people have written thousands of books about this, but yes, at a certain point, it at a certain point, it had to have been white people that opened the door, white men that
Yeah.
opened the door. It's really sad.
Yeah. And now you just even talking, having this back and forth, I'm realizing I have to word it differently because it seems like when I do say you're not the first person, but when I say sins of the father, it seems I'm just saying white people go back to slavery. I'm like, whoa, that's not what
No,
I'm talking about.
no,
It's
no.
something even like man, you know how guys are. We just most times it's surrounded by sex. It's just like, oh,
Yeah, and
and
yeah,
men learn
yeah, absolutely,
sex.
absolutely, yeah, yeah. I mean, but the thing is I'm not one of these mainstream race guys where I'm just saying you say the sins, I say it's slavery. But slavery, I mean, think about it. That was us like refusing to farm. Farming is part of the economy. So that is in a way I feel like the sin is materialism, not slavery. And then there's
Yeah,
just
yeah,
it's
I
there's
agree.
like there's dominoes that
Mhm.
fall in either historical direction where it really all of it is just sin, man.
Yeah,
It's not like the sins that liberals say it is necessarily.
yeah,
Like they would say like slavery and segregation, right?
yeah,
But that's not what it is. It's like yeah, it's sex, it's growth in a weird like
mhm,
we like worship the an inflation in a way like
mhm,
we want our money to work for itself and
mhm.
there's I don't think that's sinful. I still have to make up my mind about usury. Like, is there a difference between
Yeah,
usury and interest? But Jesus, when he talks about the parable, he said at least that what you could have done is put this money to
yeah,
use for itself.
mhm,
Is that saying it's a whole thing? But I think that you're right. That at the end of the day, 100% of problems, if you trace it far back enough, it's all about
yeah.
sin.
Let me ask you a question when it comes to work because you kind of hit on it. I heard someone got I can't remember who it was, but there was a big controversy a few weeks ago, maybe a month ago, where they were talking about retiring, and that guy said we need to push the age back, right? But
Yeah.
right after that, I heard a pastor. He said when you look at how guidelines work, he was like, "Is retirement even biblical?"
Hell no.
Exactly. Like
No, it's not.
it's not. We're
Yeah,
not supposed
it's
to be looking
just
for a
not.
time where we cannot work. We're built to work. We're supposed to be work like you're supposed to work till you die. Maybe not in a steel mill, but
Yeah,
there's some form of work you're supposed to do. Work. There was going to be work in the garden whether we feel or not. But it
absolutely.
was because of the
Absolutely.
fall that now we're doing everything all the sweat of our brow, and
Yeah.
and it's
Totally agree. Totally agree. Yeah, I don't think retirement is biblical. And also, I mean, hate to say it, Ben Shapiro. I'm not going to say what type of people group made that claim. I'm not going to hold my red chart, but
all right, Kanye.
yeah, yeah. But yeah, I mean, of course, it's not biblical, but it's interesting how even everyone kind of not the morality and biblical part of it, but everyone understands that they should be working because what is retirement in America? Retirement is not when you stop working. Most people work after retirement. They
Yeah.
retirement is when you cash in. All right.
Hmm.
So even the system concedes that retirement is just like a word when you get your benefits or whatever. But most
Yeah.
people keep working after that. And if they don't, they're usually dead. They're usually dead
Yeah.
in a couple of years. But yeah, people have to work forever. I mean, people need a purpose. And if your
Yeah.
purpose is just living for yourself and not contributing, then you're going to, use it or lose it type thing. It's like a muscle.
Mhm. Yeah, I remember someone asked me, it was in my early 20s. They asked me because I already think 401 thing is a scam. and the worse inflation gets, it's starting to look even more and more like a scam. But they asked me, they was like, "You don't want to save for your retirement?" I was like, "I plan on dying," because by then I was a Christian, I was new, but I was like, "I plan on dying, doing whatever God has me to do. If it's God ordained, I'm not gonna be like, well, I'm tired of doing this, God. I'm 65, I'm 70, I'm done." Like,
Mm,
nah, I'm gonna do it until the day I can't do it no more. Like, even if I'm a writer, if I can't use my arms, I'm gonna speak into something like Stephen Hawking. Like, I'm gonna find a
mhm.
way to do what I love. If I can't
take
walk,
take me to Epstein Island, please. Like,
except that I'm not going to ever see no.
yeah.
But yeah, I'm
Oh, that's
like,
funny. Yeah, I mean, yeah, I've joked about this for a while, where it's like I'd be the first guy to literally live stream his death. Like I'm in hospice because I love streaming and talking
yeah,
so much. It's like, yeah, this is the last. It's like the self-imposed Truman Show or whatever. But
mm,
yeah, definitely retirement, not biblical. Work is based, and we need a monarchy, man. We need a
yeah,
king.
yeah. Hopefully me, but if it ain't, hey, hopefully he's Christian. Led by not
Yeah,
just proclaiming Christian, like Bible solid. You know what I mean? One of those
yeah,
guys. Yeah,
absolutely.
bearded. He has to be bearded and bald. I respect
Okay.
bald and
Beard and bald. Okay. All right.
bearded. He has to know
It
the
has,
pain of losing a
well,
hairline.
the thing is that the I want my king to have the look. I mean, that's why one of the reasons I think that people like Trump, and I mean, I have my problems with Trump, but Trump just looks like a king. Putin just looks like a king. And
Yeah,
they have that look to him. So as long, and there's many different forms of that look, but they have to have the look, man. I will not. I'm a big physiognomy guy. I think that we need a optical, good looking, but also unique looking king. So
hey,
it can't be some normal like Mike Pence looking guy. That won't do.
now I don't mean this as disrespectful, but I know you like Nick. Does Nick, because you spoke of Fizz, does he not look like a white version of Ben Shapiro? He looks like Catholic Ben Shapiro to me.
Yeah, a little bit, a
Okay,
little bit. Yeah, yeah,
because I thought I
yeah.
was watching him the other when he was laughing at Sneeko. I was like, darn, he kind of reminds me, like he kind of reminds me of Ben Shapiro. And I was like, I don't know if I wanted to tweet that. And I was like,
Yeah.
I don't want the wrath of the gropers on.
Oh, but it would boost the engagement so much, man.
But some
Yeah,
days I don't have the energy for the smoke.
yeah,
Sometimes I have the energy for the smoke, and I'll just tweet something I know is incendiary. But
yeah,
if I don't have the energy, I'm like, all right, I don't want to deal with this today, so I'm not gonna
yeah.
put it out there.
Yeah. And I do recommend that everyone listen to Nick. I mean, that show has taught me more about what politics truly is than anything I've ever listened to. Because the like we said before, me and you come from kind of the conspiracy background, Owen Benjamin thing.
Mhm.
The Owen Ben or the conspiracy people, they don't know about power. They don't really understand power or talking about it. Nick Fuentes has taught me so much about the nature of power in institutions. It's not that it's not, I mean, I'm not a Zoomer, I'm not a Catholic. A lot of I mean, he swears a lot. I don't like swearing that much. I try to not swear. But
Yeah.
this guy, when he really is doing his job, where he's being a pundit and explaining things, he's so on point about the nature of power that I just think that everyone should listen to that guy just to get what politics is about. And I don't mean like partisan Democrat, Republican. That stuff's
Mhm.
all fake and gay. But like understanding that like these are institutions with interests, and there's people that make up these institutions, and they are part of certain groups, and they advocate for them and theirs. And even if there's not a real difference, there's a perceived difference, which makes it real in politics.
Mhm.
Perceived differences are reality in
Yeah.
politics.
Yeah.
And I can't say enough about how good that guy is at characterizing the whole thing. But yeah, he's a little goofy, and he
Yeah.
admits it. He's a weirdo. I mean,
Yeah.
and he's here for a purpose. But yeah, I would like to see that Ben Shapiro tweet one day. I can put in some. I'm in some Groiper group chats. I can
Yeah.
spread it, try to get you go viral.
When I finally, because sometimes it's just the way I word it too. Like I have something in the draft, I'm like, it's not worded right.
Right.
But when I post it, I'm gonna share it in the group chat, and then you'll
Okay.
know to share it and send it out.
All right.
Because I don't
Sounds
even,
good.
like I said, I don't mean disrespect, and I don't even really like. I don't have a strong opinion on Nick Fuentes. I just think he's young. So like, how old are you?
I'm 36.
Oh, we're the same age then.
Oh, cool.
I just see him as like a young. I just see him as a young kid. Like I think he should have get a wife, have some kids, or at least get a wife. You know,
Mm.
and like I think that would change the way because you said he's a bit goofy. It'll tone some of that down. Like we
Yeah,
never
but
lose our goofiness.
yeah, but the thing is like his takes and his what his show is really about is not about the goofiness is like an afterthought. Like he is the most I could not imagine his political and cultural breakdowns being any more mature. Even though there's a dichotomy here where he's not even immature, he's just eccentric and weird. He's been handling his own business since he was like 16. But
Go ahead.
his takes are so mature that I don't think he needs. I mean, I hope he does get a wife and kids one day, but I don't think that's necessary for what he's doing. He's so good at it already.
And that just might be me trying to form into something that he's not. Because like I tell people in not just even in Christ, but in certain movements, there's a body. Like if you're talking about the MAGA movement, there's a body. Somebody has to be the head. Somebody has to be the arm.
Yeah, sure.
So for whatever God's called him to do in this, he's probably the elbow. And maybe I'm trying to get him to be the thumb knuckle. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because I don't know a word that I would use. Like I want to call him childish. Because that show doesn't go back to like immature. He's just young, and like it's a word I want to use because I don't know. I don't know the word because any words that come to my head they sound disrespectful. Because
yeah,
I know some of the not you, but some of the gropers they come off like petulant children. But
they are. They totally are. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, they totally are. Yeah, and I'm a groiper, of course. Yeah. You can't deny how immature and like disgusting in some ways the groiper mob is. Absolutely. Because their mouth is terrible. They talk about the nastiest things. And I don't know which of them are when I see a groiper that I know that's talking like that, it is very cringe. But a lot of people, there's a lot of groiper impersonators. There's a lot of people that just are anons and they have where they literally are in their mama's basement. And those, like you said, it is a body. And there's many, he's probably got 30 to 40,000 people on his side or more throughout the country. You're going to get a lot of stinkers, but he is definitely, I do view him as my leader for sure. Like I'm part of the America First movement. I kind of am the America First IRL streamer. I have been for a long time, and other people are filming and they're talking, but I'm I'm known as like the guy that's always streaming. That's definitely my leader. I actually got a negative comment about this on a YouTube video yesterday, where he's like, "You're kind of a big loser if your leader and your king is 25 and you're almost 40." And I was like, "Bro, have you heard of like Alexander the Great or like or like Genghis Khan? All these dudes were in their 20s and 30s, and I'm sure. Oh, do you think there was no older guys? You know, this is a common historical thing.
Weren't the apostles most? I believe they were younger. They were younger than we depict. Only Peter had a wife.
Exactly.
And even then, they got married young then. So
it's a very common historical thing. Yeah, because the thing is, people are like, oh, they have this, they have blinders on where they're like, I don't know, Nick Fuentes is 25 and he'll be 25 forever, but he's a day older today, and so are you. And the great men of history were all 18 once, all of them. So it's not that big of a deal. Just as a guy that has looked at history for a while, I think we are in truly historic times, and I think Fuentes is going to become a big historical figure, or they're going to assassinate him. I think that's kind of, one of the two. I think he's going to be a big player in history. Yeah.
We're gonna next time I have you on, we're gonna talk more about that. Because we didn't even get into like a lot of your, because I don't know if I said this on the pod on the Weekly Room, but I don't have much faith in the system. You seem to have more faith in it than I do. And
in
like
the system?
The political system. And like I don't really want to knock people that do. It's just that I don't have any faith in it.
Yeah.
So if you believe you can create a change in it, go for it. I'm just going.
Yeah, let's talk about it. I actually think that you will agree with me more than you disagree. Because next time we talk about it, because I'm certainly not presenting it in the way that it's like, I'm just a bill on Capitol Hill. That's not what politics is. So yeah, we'll talk about it next time.
All right then. Well, is there anything you want to say before we get on out of here? I know you got.
Yeah, definitely. Patriot Jam, July 27th. That's the only thing I'm shilling for the next month or so. Patriot Jam is in Nashville on July 27th. We are not releasing the specific location in public because of security issues and stuff like that. But if you go to Patriot Jam Fest on Twitter and follow that, if you want to come in person, you have to contact me, JR Normus, or the Patriot Jam page, and we're trying to build like a head count. But we're also live streaming it on many different platforms, so you can come in person or check it out online. And it's basically a right-wing music festival. It's going to be small. The room that we're in caps out at about 60 or 70 people. So if anyone that's listening wants to check that out, send me a DM or check it out online. But I'm trying to kind of be the right-wing music guy going forward, and I'm going to relaunch my career doing that. And I'm performing. Other cool right-wingers are performing, so that's what I got to shill today.
Yeah. See, that's why I can't put this out weekly, because something like that needs to be put out tomorrow or at least.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna figure this out. I'll probably do 2 a week. And
cool. That's a good number, man. Yeah.
And then when I don't have anything, I'm like, well, I ain't got nothing. Y'all gonna have to wait a week.
Yeah. My man. Yeah.
Wait 2 weeks, that's legit. Check. But hey, I appreciate you coming on the show, Iggy. I appreciate you even helping me get started. So see, I gotta give credit to 2 white people, you and my boy Chad Lemoyne. Y'all helped me get this started in Hotep Jesus. I want to say I appreciate all y'all. And I think I'm just rambling, man. I'm about to go to bed, man. I hope you have a great evening.
Cool, y'all. All right. Well, and it was an honor to be on the show of the number 49 on the Grifties. I'm in the presence of greatness. So thanks, Duke. Appreciate it, man.
Go vote for me on that. Y'all go vote for me on the Grifties, man. Take it easy.
All right, good night.